Well, this scumbaggery extends down to their dealings with the end customers. They make the farmers themselves sign horribly unfavorable contracts with draconian clauses that they won't plant seeds from one year's harvest to the next. And they sometimes try and prohibit the use of pesticides and herbicides that aren't Monsanto branded. So if you want to grow a Monsanto crop that's going to increase your yield, because you're a small family farm trying to get by and economically you can't find any alternatives, you have to agree that you're not going to use third-party or generic herbicides or fertilizers on your crops. This is exactly the kind of behavior that got Microsoft and other companies served with stiff antitrust lawsuits for technology issues back in the 90s. But for some reason, the Department of Justice, under Eric Holder, has decided to quietly drop their investigations into Monsanto. Agrotech companies like Monsanto have seriously stepped up their political lobbying to the point now where Monsanto alone spent over $6 million in lobbying for fiscal year 2012, more than any other similar company. I've read reports that have indicated pollen is killing off bees through a variety of methods. For example, it's not as nutrient rich as regular organic pollen. So the bees don't know this, and many hives aren't surviving the regular hibernation process. These hives of bees are literally starving to death in their sleep. These GMO crops that they take it from are frequently oversprayed with pesticides, many of which, remember, are carcinogens. So if they're potent enough to cause cancer in something as large as a human being, what do these people think they're going to do to something the size of a bee or a fly? Now, consider for a moment, bees and insects are the primary method of pollination for organic crops, right? And they form an incredibly important function out in the larger food web. I mean, everybody who's taken 8th grade biology class understands this basic idea. Without them, we suffer cascade shortages across the food web. And before long, we're stuck with problems in the supply of everything from bread to animal feed. Now, this isn't going to say that we're going to run out of food and the whole planet's going to starve and die. You know, it is never too late to go back to organic farming. But what I'm worried about is the economic impact and catastrophe that this is going to cause or has the potential to cause. Consider the pork and beef markets. Now, cow and pig farming, especially factory farming, relies on corn and insect-based feed. If the beef market were to collapse, or even just suffer a 20% dip for one fiscal quarter, that ripples off into the overall grocery market. Believe it or not, a tremendous proportion of our overall food industry depends on beef and pork. Even a lot of products that people buy that are certified vegan, diet friendly and everything, they contain trace amounts of proteins and whatnot and glycerin that are all grown out of beef and pork cultures. The food supply is so dependent on beef and pork that we've seen 2-to-1 impacts in fluctuations in cattle futures out into the overall food supply. Consider for a moment just the scope of how much of our economy really is centered upon the food industry in one way or another. Trucking, hospitality, cardboard and paper for the packaging, restaurants, disposable kitchen utensils, even seasonal farm equipment. It's very rarely communicated publicly exactly how fragile our national economy really is and how interconnected all of these different industries have become over the years, and how small fluctuations in one area can have disastrous effects. The food industry nationally is between 15 and 20% of our national economy, depending on how you want to define the food industry. The Great Depression of the 1920s was caused by a 1-week collapse of only 5% of our national economy. I'll let you ponder that for a moment. Instead of farmers being free to farm what they want, they're forced through economic forces to farm subsidized corn and soybeans. And after getting hooked into genetically modified seeds, their fields slowly become more and more infested with herbicide-resistant weeds and plants. It slowly leads to the growth and rise of superweeds, which are completely immune to herbicides, no matter how much methylethyl bad stuff gets dumped on them. And then the farmer's screwed, because no matter what they do to their field, they're infested with weeds and they can't get anything to grow. This leads to a seriously reduced biodiversity and puts our entire food supply and other sectors of our economy increasingly vulnerable to single-issue problems that have ripple effects. All it would take to trigger serious economic downturn would be for one new corn disease or one new form of bacteria to come along and gut our corn supply for so much as 60 days. And I guarantee you, you'd see panic out in the news and your 401ks would pay the price. Several Monsanto factories, such as the one in Soda Springs and the one in Sauget, Iowa, are now EPA Superfund toxic waste cleanup sites. You and I are paying with our tax money to clean up their toxic waste. There's a lot of talk this week, including from previous speakers, and I hope we'll hear some more about HB 660. This is only one step. Contact your state representatives and your state senators. New Hampshire has the most representative democratically elected legislature in the entire world. We have one elected official for every 6,000 people in New Hampshire. That is the highest ratio of any legislature on the planet. I promise you, if you email your state representatives, if you research them on the web and find a picture of them and run into them at the grocery store, if you call them on the phone, and all of our phone numbers are on the State House website, if you call them on the phone, we will talk to you and listen to what you have to say. I myself have changed my vote 3 separate times because of concerns from the people in the district I represent. You absolutely, please, I beg you, don't ever stop trying and don't ever stop working your butts off. We got to do this on both sides, inside and outside the building. Thank you.
Do your best, support your local economy, not just food, clothing, farmers, your doctors. Nobody goes to California from Manchester or from New Hampshire to see their dentist. Why are we buying food from all over the world? Make an effort to support your local economy, and this will send a message to them clear and proud.
I am so saddened to see the children that do not know what a tomato is, and this is reality. There are kids that do not understand that things grow in the ground. They're eating from boxes, and just like many of you have probably seen the quote, we are eating food-like products, not food. This is what our children are growing up with, and it's in our power, community by community, to change that and revitalize the connection to our farmers. And it really starts in a local level. I could cry just looking out at all of you because I know the passion is here. And just with this group, we could initiate so much change. It's just a matter of doing it. And we're doing it all today. We got to just keep it going. Thank you.
No more GMOs. Organic food's the way to go.
Exactly what we're eating. I have a right to know if I'm feeding my children this garbage. I have a right to know, and so do you.